Good morning. It's nice to be back at Shippensburg. I always enjoy seeing all the familiar faces, and there's always a lot of new faces when I'm here. So very happy to be here today. The title of my sermon is Gossip, Not a Minor Sin. Now, this message isn't directed to Shippensburg. I preached this in our congregation. I preach it often when I'm in other churches because it can be awkward preaching this in your own church because people, is he talking about me or all that? I've heard nothing about anything here. So if people have a particular problem with it, I'm not aware. But the problem is that I think almost all Christians have a problem with gossip. It's a sin that is very hard to get away from. Let me just ask you, how many people here have ever been gossiped about? Raise your hand. If I don't see every hand, there's something wrong with you. I mean, you're naive if you think you haven't been gossiped about. If you're 16 or older, I would say you're naive. How many here have ever gossiped about anyone? I would expect to see every hand, including mine. It is a pervasive sin, and each time I give a message on it, I start thinking back, just over the last week, the last month, that was gossip there. It's hard when you're talking about other people. It's so easy to slip into it. So we're going to talk today just about what gossip is. We're going to talk about two types of gossip and the cure for it. What is gossip? Okay, my dictionary defines gossip this way, quote, idle talk or rumor, especially about the personal or private affairs of others. Okay, I'm going to read that again. Idle talk or rumor, especially about the personal or private affairs of others. Okay? Now, there's nothing in the definition there about whether it's true or not. In other words, it could be absolutely true and it be gossip. Okay? If it's about the personal or private affairs of others. And see, that's why we all tend to get into gossip. Because like I say, it can be absolutely true. It's just we're talking about things that are personal or private. It's not wrong to talk about others, but like I say, it's so easy to slip into this, personal, private, and it tends to get critical. When we talk about the failings, faults, the embarrassments of others, their private affairs, we're gossiping about them. The origin of the word gossip actually comes from godparent. And why it's there is, a godparent kind of knows more about you, and they talk about you. That's why we don't have godparents in the Anabaptist world. We don't want anyone talking about us. But no, I mean, that's the origin of the word. So it had nothing to do with falsehood or that. It's just, somebody knows you and they talk about you. And it's easy to do this, about family members, distant relatives. And it's easy to talk about people in our church or people in other churches. And, I can think of a lot of fellowship meals, where you just start talking. And when it gets into people, it is so easy. When you start talking about their personal affairs, their faults and all that, that's gossip. It's not something that's upbuilding. It's idle talk. If someone tells us something in confidence, and then we go tell somebody else, that's gossip. I mean, it should be absolutely true. They've told us. But, if they didn't give us permission, it's okay for me to talk about this? Usually it's not, then you're gossiping. You're sharing something that they'd be very embarrassed for it to come out. Okay, now why is it not a minor sin? That's how we tend to look at it. Like, okay, we all gossip. That's a big deal. It's a minor sin. It really isn't. We're going to look at several verses today. We almost got into one in our Sunday school. I thought, if we just go a little bit further. So I'll be sharing that verse. You'll get to talk about it next week in your Sunday school lesson. All right, to begin with, it violates the second greatest commandment, to love your neighbor as yourself. I mean, how many here enjoy being gossiped about? Does anyone like that really makes your day if you hear that a bunch of people been gossiping about you? Yeah, I don't think any of us like it at all. And gossip does have a way to get back to people. It can take a while, but it does tend to get back to them. And yeah, none of us feel very good when we find out that others have been talking about us. It violates Jesus' commandment to do unto others as you would have them do unto you. As we said, none of us like being gossiped about, so then don't gossip about other people. And then James 1:26, like I say, we almost got there in Sunday school. James said, if anyone among you thinks he is religious and does not bridle his tongue, but deceives his own heart, this one's religion is useless. Now that's pretty strong. If you don't bridle your tongue, you just go around talking, and like I say, it almost will inevitably get into critical things about other people, personal things about other people. He says your religion is useless. I mean, that's how strongly God looks at it. That, just don't even bring me your Christianity. It's useless. If this is what you do, you can't control your tongue. Yeah, you've just rendered your Christianity useless. So that's not something minor. When God says that, he's saying this is way up there because it is a lack of love. And love is the second greatest commandment, love of our fellow man. Now, I want you to turn your Bible to Romans chapter 1. And I guess, read this verse many times. And really, it was only in this past year when I've been doing a lot of study and writing in Romans that the force of it really came home to me. Romans 1:28 through 32. Now, I'm going to read it from the ESV. It's not the Bible I normally use. I normally use the New King James. But it renders it in a way that I think is it's particularly clear. It says, and since they did not see fit to acknowledge God. This is Paul talking about mankind who has turned away from God. Since they did not see fit to acknowledge God, God gave them up to a debased mind to do what ought not to be done. They were filled with all manner of unrighteousness, evil, covetousness, malice. They are full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, maliciousness. They are gossips, slanderers, haters of God, insolent, haughty, boastful, inventors of evil, disobedient to parents, foolish, faithless, heartless, ruthless. Though they know God's righteous decree that those who practice such things deserve to die, they not only do them, but give approval to those who practice them. Now, that's a pretty, the list of sins there. Murder, inventors of evil, and right there with those really serious sins, and he's just, right before this verse, he's talked about homosexuality. That's where he began his list of evils. And then he goes down and finishes his list. Gossip, slanderers. Now the King James says whisperers and backbiters. And so sometimes we miss, what's a whisperer? We don't use that term today usually. We can kind of guess, but it may sound like, oh, you don't talk very loud, you just whisper. And that's not what Paul is talking about. A whisperer, the Wycliffe Bible, and I wish the King James translators had just stuck to this. The Wycliffe Bible, which was the first English Bible several centuries before the King James, renders it secret backbiters and open backbiters. So instead of whisperers, it says secret backbiters. Now, again, we don't use the term backbiter very much today. The term we use is backstabber, okay? So it's saying a backstabber. You're stabbing people in the back. So there's two kinds. You can either do it secretly or you can do it openly. Okay, secretly is where you stab someone in the back and they don't know it. Openly, you're a little bit more bold about it, but you're usually not talking to them. You're still talking to other people, but maybe in a larger setting. And he says people who do such things deserve to die. And those are Paul's words. I mean, he's talking about the world. He's saying the world should know that people who do those things deserve to die. If the world knows that, what about us? I mean, we should know that when we're, harming the reputation of our brother or sister, we deserve to die. That's Paul's words. That's where he puts us. So, it's not a little sin. And like I say, it often is, we gossip about people we know the closest, and often we like them. And we're going to talk about why we do this. But, I mean, often it's our spouse. No one knows me as well as Deborah. And probably no one knows Deborah as well as I do, and so on. And I will say, I think as Anabaptists, we have just as much a problem with gossip as any other kind of church. Churches that we might look at as worldly, I would say Anabaptists have just as much a problem. But I will say in our favor, at least my experience, has been we don't stab our spouses in the back as much as what I was used to in other churches. I don't hear as much gossip about somebody's husband or wife that I'd heard a lot of when I was in, other churches. So, it's okay, we're at least doing, I think, something better. But as far as gossip in general, I mean, to be honest, I'd say, we're not even a little bit above other churches. Other churches have a problem, and I'd say we do too. I used to tell people, well, as Anabaptists, we don't have TV, we don't have movies, so we just gossip. I mean, that's what we do for our entertainment. And there's a little bit of truth to that. There's probably even more than just a little bit. Paul also uses the term evil speaking in Ephesians 4. He says, let all bitterness, wrath, anger, clamor, and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. Instead, be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, just as God in Christ forgave you. So, evil speaking, that term would include a lot, but it would certainly include gossip. And what's in contrast, he says, is being kind to one another. It's not kind to talk about people behind their back. It's not being tender-hearted. Often you've got a grudge is while you're talking about them. He says, forgiving one another. In other words, if you forgive your brother, then you're not going to be talking about him. And he points out, hey, Christ forgave us. And Jesus said, unless we forgive others, then he won't continue to forgive us. So, if we've got something against our brother, we know Matthew 18, go and speak to your brother about it. Don't go and gossip about your brother or sister. Now, up to this point, we've been talking about gossip that's true. In other words, you're not lying. I mean, what you're saying is the absolute truth. You know this about your, husband or wife, or your mother or father, or your, cousins, whatever. You're not saying anything untrue, but it's still wrong. It's still a very serious sin. But gossip is rarely 100% true. It's rarely 100% false, although it can be. But usually it's half-truths. Yeah, it's part of the story, but it's not the whole story. It's just part of it. And so we relate things. Sometimes we don't even know the story ourselves. We've heard it from somebody, and they heard it from somebody else. And then we pass it on. Each time it gets changed a little bit, and it gets a little bit more inaccurate. And often we don't even know if what we're passing on is true. We've just heard it. I mean, we may think we're passing on something true. We're still gossiping, but we don't think we're slandering someone. But, we don't even know. We're just passing on the rumor that's out there, and it could be 100% false. And so often we are slandering. Slandering means you're lying about somebody, okay, that we're lying about our brother or sister. And like I say, I mean, it's pretty easy to have grounds to gossip about any of us. I mean, every one of us have faults that someone could just, rightfully sit and talk about David Bercot's faults. I mean, you could go on, I think, probably a long time. And the better you know me, probably the more faults you know about me that you could talk about. But everyone also has their good points. And like I say, in gossip, for some reason, we're attracted to talking about people's faults. We don't tend to sit around and start talking about the good things about somebody. I mean, sometimes we do. I've been in conversations where, everyone was praising so-and-so. Yeah, he's really a fine brother. I've heard conversations like that, but I've heard a lot more. We start getting on, the false idiosyncrasies of somebody, and it just, boy, it can just keep spiraling. Psalm 101:5, whoever secretly slanders his neighbor, him I will destroy. That's God speaking. Whoever secretly slanders his neighbor. See, that's gossip. I mean, if you're 100% certain it's true, you may not be slandering, but you're still gossiping. But like I say, usually there's some falsehood because every situation has two sides, and usually you don't know both sides. Okay, I said we're going to talk about two different kinds of gossip. The first one I call entertainment gossip. We're sitting around. I mean, our purpose, isn't to, we're not thinking about stabbing someone in the back. We're not mad at somebody. We're just sitting around. It happens so easily at a fellowship meal, just talking. Somebody's name comes up. Somehow somebody's in the conversation. And, boy, it can start spiraling. And someone tells a story about something ridiculous this person did or just something that demonstrates his faults or something. And then someone else, and so on. And there's something, it shows, what's in our heart. And Jesus said, it comes out of the evil treasure of our heart, that we enjoy that. It suddenly gets, the conversation suddenly gets interesting. People's ears start perking up, so-and-so, and all of that. It does show just how much evil is inside of us. Why we need Christ and why we need to keep working on surrendering our hearts, cleaning out what's inside. But it's just a lot more interesting to talk about people's faults. I mean, I'm being just frank here because I'm no different. I get caught up in that, and it's like later it's like, oh, that was terrible. That was terrible. What we did, and like I say, it's totally unplanned. We just get in it. Now, some entertainment gossip is planned. You pick up the phone and you're planning to talk about it. Have you heard, about so-and-so? And no, what is that? And then it goes on. And like I say, the fact that we find that interesting and we tend not to start, call up someone, hey, have you heard the good thing about so-and-so? What a wonderful sister she is and blah, blah, blah. We don't tend to do that, do we? I mean, it's usually, like I say, I got to talk to somebody. In fact, I've heard people say, well, I've just got to talk to someone. And it's about gossip. I mean, it's like, no, you don't have to talk to someone. Yeah, you do. That person up there. You need to talk to God about it. But no, you don't need to go and talk to somebody else. But that's our way of getting it off our chest. Jesus said, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. A good man out of the good treasure of his heart. And that word treasure, the Greek word is thesaurus. It actually means a storehouse. Okay, so each of us has a storehouse here. You got a lot of things stored up. And Jesus is saying, you're reaching in that storehouse, in that cupboard, and you're bringing out what's there. A good man out of the good treasure or good storehouse of his heart brings forth good things. And an evil man out of the evil treasure brings forth evil things. So, I mean, we can just look at ourselves right there, kind of like a thermometer. Okay, what's in my heart? What's coming out of my heart? If I'm speaking evil about people all the time, Jesus is saying that's because the problem is here in the heart. The problem is not your tongue. I mean, James says we need to bridle our tongue, but we realize our tongue isn't autonomous. It doesn't just start talking, come on, stop it, and it just keeps going. No, it's in our heart that is motivating, and that's what James means when he talks about the tongue. It's really our heart. Now, you may think, okay, when he says, a good man and an evil man, and about bringing forth this, surely he's not talking about gossip. He's talking about something really, really evil. Well, his next words, I'm reading from Matthew 12, 34 through 37. He says, I say to you that for every idle word men may speak. He doesn't say for every evil word. He says for every idle word men may speak, they will give account of it on the day of judgment. For by your words you will be justified or declared righteous, and by your words you will be condemned. So, Jesus lays it out pretty frankly, for every idle word. Certainly when we're gossiping, even if it's 100% true, those are idle words. They're not words that build anyone up, that have any reason to be said other than, like I say, entertainment. So the cure to get rid of entertainment gossip is to work on our hearts. Paul said, be kind to one another and tenderhearted. So we just have to surrender this flesh to the Holy Spirit. And it hurts. Our fallen flesh wants to do these things. And I don't give this sermon every year in our church, but maybe every 2 years. I change it a bit. I think it's just one of the best cures is if we keep it in front of us that, this is gossip. And then, because when it gets in the background, then we just tend to forget about it, And I see my own self, It's easy to just let go, and I don't even realize, this is gossip. Wow, what did I just do this last week? That was really, really gossip. But the more it's in the forefront of our mind, okay, and we think a little bit when we start talking about other people. But even deeper, I think, is to work on how we view our brothers and sisters. Because if we're critical in our heart, that's usually what fuels gossip. In your heart, you like so-and-so, but you're also a bit critical, And I don't know that everyone has their faults, so there's going to be things that we have a good reason maybe to be critical, except that we have a good reason except that we're no better ourselves. We've got our own list of faults. So, we should be concentrating on that, the list of things that we need to change in our lives through God's help. But what we tend to do is, look at so-and-so, Brother Smith, he needs to change this, and Brother Smith, he needs to change that, and Brother Smith, he needs to do such and such. That tends to be what we do, and instead we should be looking at our own faults. I'm going to read Philippians 2, verses 1 through 4. Therefore, if there is any consolation in Christ, if any comfort of love, if any fellowship of the Spirit, if any affection and mercy, fulfill my joy by being like-minded, having the same love, being of one accord, of one mind. Let nothing be done through selfish ambition or conceit, but in lowliness of mind, let each esteem others better than himself. And that's the one I wanted to focus on. In lowliness of mind, let each esteem others better than himself. So, see, if that's where we are, that we're viewing people better than ourselves, then we're not going to be running them down. We're going to be viewing ourselves. If we want to run someone down, we'll be talking about ourselves. The problem is we tend to view ourselves better than our brother. We may say those words and we may do symbolic things, my brother, whatever. But if we really esteem him, viewing our brother or sister better than ourselves, and that's our heart, we're probably not going to be running them down. And one of the things, and it's just twisted thinking, but it's the way our fallen hearts are, is we have this notion, and it does work to some degree, that when we tear others down, we build ourselves up. Because, whatever, Sister Johnson did, we wouldn't do that. She did blah, 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 but, you and I wouldn't do that like her, we're up here, but Sister Johnson, she does this and she does that. But, of course, you and I would never do that, And so, when you tear others down, it does, it's saying, yeah, I'm a little bit better. I wouldn't do that kind of thing. And like I say, that is sin. All right, so that's entertainment gossip. Now, the other kind of gossip is what I call taking our brother or sister to court in secret. That we have a secret court session. We feel that somebody has wronged us, or we've had a disagreement with a brother or sister over some issue. We've had a disagreement with our spouse. Maybe angry words have been spoken. What we want to do is, get back with them. And what we should do is apply Matthew 18 and sit down and talk about it. In fact, even before that, we should forgive. That's the starting point. If we can't forgive, then we need to sit down and talk with them. Or if we think there's really a serious sin that needs to be changed, we need to sit down and talk with them. But what we tend to do is to take them to court in secret. And what I mean by that is, it's just like a court. We bring charges against our brother. We present a case against him. But he's not there, see, to defend himself. It's just, me talking with Harvey, and, this is what so-and-so did. And this is, all the details and all of that. But he's not here to defend himself. Now, and I shouldn't use Harvey as an example because I probably wouldn't gossip with him. But I'm going to pick someone that I know will be on my side. Okay, when people do this, they don't just go get a fair, impartial jury. They get their friends. They get people who they know are going to take their side of the story. Okay, so it's just like a trial. You bring charges against somebody. You've got a jury there and all that, but it's all in secret. Now, it's 1,000 times worse than the world. I mean, the world, at least you have courts. And if you have charges to bring about against someone, you have to let them know. You have to send them a complaint, and they get to see all the details. This is what I'm saying about you. And they get to work out a defense, if they have one. They get to have an attorney to, speak on their behalf. And then they get to go before an impartial jury, somebody who doesn't know them. You don't go before a stacked jury. Sometimes you do, but I mean, normally it's fairly impartial as much as you can get in this fallen world. And that's the world's idea of justice. So what about the kingdom idea of justice? That, we do it in secret where the person isn't there. They don't even know there's charges brought against them. We get a stacked jury of just our friends, and then we convict them, and the jury agrees, so-and-so is a bad brother. Boy, that's terrible. Yeah, he or she doesn't even know this is going on, It's, like I say, it's worse than what the world does. And the fact that we know this is evil is that invariably we do not go to someone who could help get the matter resolved. In other words, if we really want to resolve it, if we really feel our brother or sister has done us wrong, then we will go to somebody who could help get it resolved. And sometimes we do that. But like I say, in gossip, this kind of gossip, we go to someone who can't resolve it. We go to people who we know will just take our side. And then we get our revenge in that this brother or sister, they've got a black mark against them, and they don't even know it. I mean, I've had people come up to me, total strangers, and, and I appreciated that they did this. I had one once at Kingdom Fellowship Weekend. I didn't even know him, and came up to me and said he had heard such and such about me, and he just wanted to hear my side of the story. And I really appreciated that. I said, thank you, brother. And so I was able to give my side of the story. It doesn't mean it's the whole side, but at least the other perspective. You've heard one half, at least, here's the other half of the story. And I said, and you don't have to, answer this, but I'm just curious, who did you hear this from? Because I didn't even know this guy. Well, he gave me a name, somebody I've never heard of. It's like, and I told him, I said, I don't even know this brother. to my knowledge, I've never even met him. I mean, so how would he know? And, I mean, so I don't know how long that chain went, you know. And finally, somebody, like I say, had the good graces to come to me to ask, is this true? But I don't know how many other branches, where all that went. And you're just helpless. I mean, it's like, yeah, you've just been tried in secret, condemned, and there's nothing you can do about it because you don't even know where it, you know, originated or you know, how to take care of it. And one of the ways we do this in our deceiving hearts is, because our heart is deceitful, is what the Bible says, we do it as a prayer request. Have you ever heard gossip in the form of a prayer request? You know, some of you raising your hands. I've heard a lot, you know. It's, brother, would you, I've got a problem. Would you pray about it? Sure, yeah. What is it? Oh, it's so-and-so, you know, blah, blah, blah. You know, would you pray for them? You know, blah, 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 you know. And we may think we're being very righteous, you know, we're doing it in a prayer request. But we're really just gossiping. I mean, there are times, you know, when, yeah, there's a sin that, you know, the whole church would acknowledge. And yeah, we pray for someone or something like that. But yeah, when you're doing it in private or that sort of thing, and you're then revealing all of this negative stuff about somebody, it's really a form of gossip. You know, if you want it solved, you know, resolved again, pray to God. If you need to, you know, talk to the leaders of your congregation. If it's somebody not in your congregation, talk to the leaders of that congregation where the person is, you know. But yeah, just spreading it and doing it in this pious clothing of, oh, this is a prayer request. We pray for so-and-so. I heard this so often when we were evangelicals, you know, just, okay, they probably pray more than we do, which is good. But so often the prayer request would be, yeah, so-and-so. I mean, it'd often be someone we wouldn't know. It would be a relative of this person or you know, somebody in town or something like that, you know. And just, you know, blah, blah, blah. And we just hear this horrible story about somebody, and we don't know their side. And we're supposed to pray about it without even knowing, well, what's the other side of it, you know? And, yeah, I was a little uneasy of that, but, yeah, it's easy to get into. I mean, it's so funny. I gave this sermon, a version of it, I don't know, several years ago at a congregation. Excuse me a second. And when we were driving home afterwards, you know, we'd had a meal there, and we were driving home, and Deborah said, yeah, one of the sisters had come up to her and said, would you pray for my husband? And, you know, Deborah's thinking, okay, you know, he's in the hospital, he's something. And then it's just blah, 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 blah. It's like, I just talked about that, you know? It's like, was the person sleeping? I mean, it's just like, I just couldn't believe it, you know? So, yeah, hopefully no one slept through that. So, yeah, be careful when someone comes up to you with a prayer request. Okay, so the cure we've already talked about to a large degree. You know, instead of taking your brother to court in secret, if somebody has wronged you or you feel they have wronged you, you know, first of all, Jesus said forgive, up to 70 times 7. So even if this has happened a lot, that's the first step. Forgive that person. Because whatever they've done to you doesn't even remotely compare with the debt that we owe God. I mean, not even remotely. So, yeah, put it in his perspective that compared to what you're asking God to forgive you, this is nothing. And just forgive. Now, if you find that's not working, that, you know, it's there, then the next step, as we said, is Matthew 18. Go and talk to your brother alone and just say, you know, you've offended me, this has really bothered me, or I think what you've done here is wrong. Go and talk to your brother alone. And then, yeah, if that doesn't get anywhere, it says bring 2 or 3. It doesn't say go out and start gossiping, go out and hold your brother, have a secret trial against your brother. No, it says bring 2 or 3 others. And then finally, if he doesn't listen, again, it doesn't say go out and gossip. It says, you know, tell it to the church, meaning the leaders of the church, that the church will take official action. And yeah, if he won't listen to the church, then he's put out of the church. So Jesus is talking about something serious there. But Yeah, if you don't get anywhere, bring 2 or 3 others. And it doesn't mean 2 or 3 others who are, going to just take your side. Try to get people who would be impartial, church leaders or others who, would be in a position to weigh in and maybe see where you may be at fault and see the other side of it. Now, I want to close by, or the last section, I should say, is talk about our responsibility as a listener. I've been speaking so far about the gossiper, the person doing the talking, and that we need not to do that. But it takes 2 people to gossip. It's not just the person who's doing the talking. They're the most guilty, or maybe they're not. But someone is listening. So when someone comes to you and starts talking about somebody else, something that's disparaging, something that person wouldn't like it if they were overhearing this conversation, you really share in the guilt if you let them do that. If you just, even if you sit there silently and say nothing, you share in that guilt, because you didn't have to sit there and listen. Let me give you an illustration. What would you do if someone came up to you and started telling a really obscene story, an obscene joke? Would you as a Christian, would you just sit there and they're just going through something just filthy and all that? Would you just sit there and, okay. I mean, I wouldn't. I mean, whoa, I don't care for this kind of talk or something like that. I mean, I think most of us would speak out or something like that. We didn't just sit there and let that going. Well, in Jesus' eyes, I think gossip is just as obscene as that. I think it's worse. I mean, a dirty joke, it's a joke. I mean, no one's getting directly hurt. Gossip is hurting. It's tearing down someone's reputation. So if someone comes to you and they're gossiping, if it's entertainment gossip, we're sitting around and again, I'm guilty here. I can think of conversations that I should have said something and I didn't. Someone in the group should say, whoa, brothers, or whoa, sisters, I think we're crossing the line here into gossip, something like that. And that'll pretty well put a stop to it, Or privately, someone's talking to you on the phone. I think we're getting into gossip here, Now, that's what you need to do as a Christian. Now, I'm going to tell you the result of that. You are not going to be as popular among people who gossip. Okay? In other words, you do that a few times, when someone's got some gossip, they're not going to call you. They're going to call somebody else who will listen and maybe even join in and take their side, okay? So if you just do that consistently, you're not going to be on the gossip circuits. I can guarantee that, that, oh yeah, sister so-and-so, she's always, she'll say something. So yeah, they'll just skip you. And that's a blessing. I want to be skipped. Like I say, I'm not perfect when it comes to gossip, but I can tell people, because so often people ask me about this or that, haven't you heard? It's like, truth is, I'm not on any gossip circuits. And sometimes, there's legitimate news that I don't hear about, but I'd rather be that way. I may miss out hearing some legitimate things, but I just rather, people, they got something interesting to say about a brother or sister, they're not going to call Deborah or I as a general rule. If it's somebody gossiping, holding their brother or sister, trying to have a secret trial with you, then I think the thing to do, or the thing obviously to do, is just what we just said. No, wait a minute. Have you talked to this brother himself? Have you already sat down with this brother? And 50% or more of the time, 80%, no, I actually haven't. Well, yeah, but don't tell me. I mean, first, you need to sit down and try to work it out with him, And if they say, yeah, I've already talked to him and didn't get anywhere, okay, well then let's, would you have any objection then if you and I, and maybe we can get somebody else, we will go and talk to that person? I've done that several times, and it's surprising how often people say, no, we'll just drop it, In other words, they're not really wanting to get it resolved. If they were, then they would yeah, hey, I would appreciate that. Yeah, that would be good. Would you come with me? And yeah, we'll get, whoever, Harvey or, Marvin, and, but yeah, normally it's, no, that's okay. It's not going to do any good, or something like that. So yeah, so what you wanted to do was to have a secret trial and just try this person in absentia, and yeah, they never know that this has happened. So yeah, just as a concluding thought, no one can gossip without a willing listener. So like I say, it takes two. You can shut down the other one, and you're actually doing your brother or sister a favor. In other words, if I get into gossip, someone will be doing me a favor if they say, Dave, I think you've crossed the line there. Oh, yeah, So you're doing this brother or sister a favor, number one, and number two, you're keeping from being a part of the sin in itself. Okay, so just in way of brief review, we talked about two kinds of gossip. Can anyone tell me, name one of the two? Okay, entertainment gossip. And what is that?
Unplanned gossip, just by way of conversation.
Yeah. It's idle talk. We sit around and then we start, no one is intending this, but yeah, we get on the subject of a certain person, and then yeah, we're saying things we shouldn't, or just revealing, personal things that we shouldn't be revealing to other people. And we don't mean to be mean to that person. I mean, may actually be a friend or something. It's just, yeah, we get caught up in it. Okay, that's entertainment gossip. And then what's the other kind of gossip? Okay, so a secret court session. And that's planned. Yeah, we're wanting to get our revenge on somebody, or it may be a spouse, and we're wanting sympathy, or again, a member of the family. And yeah, I want the whole world to know, what I suffer, living with Deborah every day. I mean, I want you to know just what a martyr I am, what I go through, Of course, it's totally the other way around. Yeah, I mean, we want sympathy, or at least everyone to know, wow, what a noble person I am, that I live with this other person, or I work with this other person, or whatever it is, Okay, and so what are some things we can do, or what is the thing we should do when someone starts gossiping to us, starts talking to us, and you realize it's gossip? Uh-oh, if we don't know that part, then... Okay, so call it out, Conrad says. Yeah, you can do it, don't have to be self-righteous about it, but, we've crossed the line here. Don't assume the person necessarily has an evil motive, but they might. If they're trying to have a secret trial, the same thing, as we said, have you talked to this brother or sister about this alone? And if not, or if they have, okay, would you like me to go with you? And we try to talk about it. And yeah, if they're sincere, they want to get it worked out, then they will take you up on that offer. If they're just wanting to badmouth this person, then they're going to say, no, it's not going to do any good, or they'll have some other excuse. But that's how you can respond, where you're not a party. And again, if there are issues, you can help get them resolved. I mean, it doesn't get anything resolved if in the congregation people are just talking bad about one another, or talking bad about people in another congregation, and no one gets it resolved. That does nothing for the kingdom of God. Well, I appreciate your kind attention. I'll turn it over to Wendell. Okay, I didn't know which of the two. And yeah, I'll let you close from there.